Hi, I am recording the other section from the collected works of Florence Scovel Shinn. I made another video in which I read the two pathways, or the choice between pathways, a section from her book, The Secret Door to Success, in the last video, where it gave a good affirmation, a couple of good affirmations for being mindful of what we are rooting in our conscious, which is what we're manifesting, and how right now is a critical choice between pathways, the path of faith or the path of fear, and what you're choosing to feed into and as a result manifest. But this one here, this is from her book, The Power of the Spoken Word. And so this one is called Your Big Opportunity, and I really like this one because it gives us a clear understanding of the big opportunity. You'll see. I'm going to try and get through this one. It's a little longer. I'm going to try to just read through it without too much commentary. So here we go. You have only one judge, your word. Jesus Christ said, I say unto you that every idle word that man shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by the word thou shalt be justified, and by thy word thou shalt be condemned. Every day is a day of judgment. We used to be taught that it would be at the end of the world. Look back in your life and see how you have attracted either happiness or disaster through your words. The subconscious has no sense of humor. People joke destructively about themselves, and the subconscious takes it seriously. It is because the mental picture you make while speaking impresses the subconscious and works out in the external. A person who knows the power of the word becomes very careful of his conversation. He has only to watch the reactions of his words to know they do not return void. People make their worst mistakes by speaking while they are angry or resentful because there is so much ill feeling back of their words. Owing to the vibratory power of words, what you voice, you begin to attract. People who continually speak of disease invariably attract disease. So this is the part that's critical right now. What are you speaking into existence? I mentioned in the other video how we're casting spells and we're cursing ourselves and each other unbeknownst to us, because we don't understand this. Our big opportunity here is to understand the power of our words and the power of speech and the power of whether it's silent, our internal thoughts and dialogues, or whether we're articulating it out to others. But you'll catch the spells and how it becomes a spell. We learn how to spell when we're little kids. We're learning spelling and how to write in cursive. These things stem, the etymology is it's there for a reason. So in a sense, you can look at it that way, take it that seriously when you're speaking something. Understand that if someone tells you, oh, you're never going to get that, or you're never going to accomplish this, or that's never going to work, they're casting that spell. So you have to be saying, okay, that's your opinion, you're entitled to it. It's funny because I'm wearing this shirt, everyone's entitled to my opinion. I thought this was so funny when I was at the store, but I didn't have I didn't have the nerve to wear it ever anywhere because I was in public, because I was just so embarrassed, because I'm like, everyone's going to think that I'm full of myself and that I think I'm right about everything. And I'm like, I kind of do, but it's because I study and I'm humble to truth, and so I don't believe BS. I don't subscribe to like chatter a lot. So my mom and I actually have a really good relationship. I'm getting off topic, but I'm going to get back to this, where we can actually tell each other when I'm just, wait, you just cast a spell on me, like you better take that back. And then we'll laugh, and then we'll be like, oh yeah. So it's really good when you develop a rapport with someone where you can kind of check yourselves on these things and like listen to what you're saying. If you're into that negative self-talk and you have someone that's going to be around to say, hey, that's not true what you just said, or the lens through which you're seeing the situation is a little skewed, if you are feeding into the fear narrative right now and sending out all these, it's very different to be aware and to be ignorant or naive. That's not what we're talking about. Because when you're awake, you're very aware, right? You're alert. but then you're also aware of what your role is and what you're supposed to be doing right now. And what you're supposed to be doing right now is not helping to feed the machine that's going to keep us segregated and detached and feeling less than, feeling helpless, feeling fearful, feeling like there's disease out there. So if you go back to that little section I read on Wallace D. Wattles' book, The Science of Being Well, there's no source of disease, there's only a source of wellness. So who are we listening to right now? And the other section I read from Florence Scovel Shinn, what path are we choosing? Are we choosing from options that really are not the only ways around this situation? You gotta think critically. This is your biggest opportunity that you've ever had in life, so what are you doing with it? That's how I see it. So anyways, if you have a buddy that you can check on those spells that you're casting, it's fun, and you can actually become very aware of a lot of things that you're not really conscious of. You're not thinking about them, but you are definitely casting spells on yourself and on others all the time when you send out doubt and fear or anxiety or worry or lies of just distorted reality. Continuing on. Invisible forces are ever working for man, who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. We read in the Bible, life and death are in the power of the tongue. End quote. Yet most people are speaking destructively from morning until night. It is because they have formed a habit of criticism, condemnation, and complaint, and are eager to tell you of their misfortunes and how mean all their relatives are. They wear their friends out, and people avoid them. They are talking themselves into a flock of troubles. Now that we know the power of the word, why not take advantage of it? We take advantage of the radio, the telephone, and airplanes, but live with the mound builders in conversation. Science and religion, it's saying set a standard, set a precedent for yourself, set a boundary. When you see someone that's constantly speaking spells and cursing themselves, just say, I really don't want any of that. So can you just not? Or I totally respect your decision to curse yourself, but please don't cast that spell on me. But it's just like a joke, because really they're not really going to be doing it. It's really what you just kind of, once you're aware of it and you learn it, then you're quickly going to tell yourself in your head, be like, wow, they're really about to manifest something they don't want. Because like it says, the subconscious doesn't know how to joke. When someone's going around talking about, oh man, look how ugly I am, or look how fat I look, whatever, you're no one, if you're saying it as a joke, or you're being passive aggressive or doing your little stuff, the subconscious is going to take that in. It's like, okay, you want to view yourself in a low vibration, then that's what you're going to continue to see. That's what's going to be true for you in the world. You're going to have this perception, and others are going to have that perception of you as well, because that's what you're telling us that you want. It doesn't know that you're joking. The subconscious has no sense of humor. So be mindful. Take advantage of the opportunity to create what you want and not the opposite. Science and religion are now coming together. Science is discovering the power within the atom. Metaphysics teaches the power within thoughts and words. We are dealing with dynamite. That's how powerful it is. We are dealing with dynamite when we deal with words. Think of the power in the word in healing. A word is spoken and a chemical change takes place in the body. Again, speaking of the power of us to heal through our manifested beliefs and thoughts. Whether it's spoken or thought, it's still doing this process. One of my friends was seriously ill. The doctor said she had chronic bronchitis and was on the verge of pneumonia. Her daughters and the doctor rushed her to bed, and she had a nurse. But weeks passed and there was no improvement. She was a Truth student. Truth is the name of Florence Scovel Shinn's meeting she used to have back in the day. Again, her first book was published in 1925 when she first started these teachings. And she had these truth meetings where people would come to her to speak the word, she would say, to speak the word over them. Basically affirmations, helping them to shift their faulty thought habits and systems and speak a different truth over them. give them the affirmation that they would then repeat, and then they would see the changes in their lives. And it worked, so they kept coming back. So this person who was ill was a truth student, but for over a year had attended no meetings, nor had she kept up her reading. One morning she telephoned me and said, "Please speak the word and get me out of this. I can't stand it anymore. I'm not sick, I'm just disgusted. So much negative talk and thought have almost floored me." Through the spoken word and her affirmation of truth, immediately there was a change for the better. She had a strong hunch to go out and was told it would be dangerous, but by this time she was following divine guidance. She went out and called on me and said she was going to attend a luncheon the next day. What had happened? The words of truth were making a change in her mind, and a chemical change was taking place in her body. We are told that if we believe, never doubting, we can say to that mountain, "Be thou removed," and it would disappear into the sea. The inexhaustible energy in man is released by goodwill. A man free from fear, undisturbed by appearances, sending goodwill to men and nations, could say to these mountains of hate and war, "Be thou removed," and they would return to their native nothingness. What are we subscribing to right now? Okay, we're talking about, I have to just get on my little soapbox right here. We're talking about essential jobs, essential workers right now in the state of, I don't know when you're watching this, but right now today it's March 30th, 2020, and we're in the midst of the coronavirus. That's the big thing. It's an unprecedented time in history, and we're seeing who's being selected as an essential worker, and we're seeing that the media is continuing on as usual. So we're getting this daily dose of negativity, because everybody knows the news delivers the latest counts, latest numbers. This many deaths, this is increasing, this is spreading, this is this, this and this. Then you have this other narrative about a common flu and how it's killed just as many. I always think about how we've got cigarettes and nicotine products and alcohol and things like that that cause a lot of deaths, tons of deaths, cancer and all these things. They just put a little label on it and tell people use at your own risk, and life doesn't stop. We just have these high death tolls that are ranking up for certain things, but this thing, the media and the method of response to it are shifting the whole narrative of how we address this critical time. And it's just very interesting that the media is essential, and yet they're spreading fear. Is that what we really need right now? In 1925, people were talking about the power of the spoken word. Why is the word that we're allowed to hear and be inundated with negative and fear-based? And we know that what we're conscious of becomes our reality and expands. So when we think about it, how are we truly spreading the virus? What truly is the virus? On a spiritual or a metaphysical plane, the virus might be our thought and our words and what we're saying in relation to what's going on. Some people aren't ready to hear that though, so I'm just going to keep going. The inexhaustible energy in man is released by goodwill. A man free from fear, undisturbed by appearances, sending goodwill to men and nations, could say to these mountains of hate and war, "Be thou removed," and they would return to their native nothingness. Resentment and intolerance rob man of his power. We should have signs in the subway and shops that say, "Watch your thoughts, watch your words." Let us now be careful in directing this dynamic force within us. Let us direct it to heal, bless, and prosper, and direct it in waves of good to the whole world. It goes out a mighty force, but noiseless. Thoughts, the strongest power in the universe, is without sound. Your goodwill sweeps all obstacles from your pathway, and your heart's desire is released for you. What is really yours? The answer is, all that the kingdom affords is yours. Every righteous desire of the heart is promised you. There are 3,000 promises in the Bible, but these gifts can come to us only if we can believe them possible, for everything comes through you, not to you. All life is vibration. Feel rich and you attract riches. Feel successful and you become successful. Sorry to be a little. I knew of a small boy who was born in a little country town with no advantages, but he always felt successful. He had the conviction that when he grew up, he would be a big artist. No one could discourage him because he was success. He had only success thoughts. He radiated success. At an early age, he left the small town and went to a big city, and to support himself, he got a position as a newspaper artist on a daily paper. All this without previous preparation. It never occurred to him that it could not be done. He went to an art school and immediately became a shining light. He never studied in an academic way. Whatever he once saw, he remembered. In a few years, he went to a still larger city and became a well-known artist. This success came to him because he was always seeing success. Quote, "I will give to you the land that thou seest." End quote. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land that they could see. The Bible is a metaphysical book, and it is speaking to the individual. This minute it says to each one of us, quote, "I will give to you the land that thou seest." End quote. So what are you seeing with your inner eye? Your inner eye. What pictures are you inviting into your life? The imaging faculty has been called the scissors of the mind. Your scissors of your mind. You're crafting your experience. I don't care what or how difficult that is for anyone to grasp. This is 1925. This was probably 1940. But back before this, in 1925, they determined that your mind and your thoughts are the scissors. Your thoughts are the scissors of your mind, and we craft our experience. So today, 100 years later, if you can't swallow that, we're probably not as advanced as we think we are. It's time to get it and move forward with wisdom, with the information that's already been laid out for us. So, what are you seeing with your inner eye? What pictures are you inviting into your life? The imaging faculty has been called the scissors of the mind. If you have failure thoughts, reverse the thought with a success thought. This sounds easy enough to do, but when a failure thought has become a habit, it takes eternal vigilance to dislodge it. So that's part of the reason why people scoff at the power of law of attraction or positive thinking, because it's not the whole thing, right? So we've been told that it's not just ask, believe, receive. You actually have to put emotion back desires. You actually have to practice the thought, because it's a habit. If you've trained your mind for 31 years to be negative and pessimistic, it's not going to just take 30 seconds of saying, I create my reality, for you to shift that. It's a practice thing. You become the guardian of the gate. What are you thinking? Are you aware of the spells and the people that are casting different things around you? Are you feeding into a narrative of negativity? You've got to change your lifestyle. It's like changing your diet. People don't work out for a reason. They don't change their diet for a reason because they think it's too hard. So when they're telling you this, it's not going to be easy, but it is possible, and it's the answer. So it's like, okay, if I can't convince you to eat a salad over, that donut, maybe I can convince you to save your world by just changing your thought process. Just start there. I think that's worth it. In terms of the severity of what we're facing, it's worth a shot, because it's not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take might. It doesn't take force. It doesn't take the majority rule. It just takes one person, each and every one person, recognizing their divinity and their divine power, which is the power of your thought. You're sovereign and leader of your mind. So how are you using it? We don't know how. We don't know how. Continuing on. That is when a powerful affirmation is needed. You cannot always control your thought, but you can control your word, and eventually the word impresses the subconscious and wins out. If you are in a negative state of mind, just take the statement, "I look with wonder at that which is before me." It creates an expectancy of something wonderful, and that something wonderful will come to you. Cultivate the feeling that miracles and wonders are coming to pass. Cultivate a success expectancy. Very few people bring into life what is rightfully theirs. They live on the outskirts of their heart's desire. It always seems too good to be true. To the person spiritually awake, nothing is too good to be true. To this person who is spiritually awake, nothing is too good to be true. If you want to hear people talking who are still asleep in the Adamic Dream, go to a hairdresser's establishment. The Adamic Dream is the illusion of opposites. Adam fell into a deep sleep, having eaten of the tree of illusion. I'm talking about the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible. Of course, Adam stands for generic man, the race man. The race man vainly imagined loss, lack, failure, sin, sickness, and death. All those are imaginations. So we're using our creative power of thought to imagine into existence loss, lack, failure, sin, sickness, and death. But now we will return to the beauty parlor. The following is an exact quotation and a good example of what one hears. A woman sat down near me and said in a loud voice, "This place is too warm. Turn something on or open something." The attendant said to her, "How are you feeling today, Mrs. S?" She replied with a heavy sigh, "Oh, I'm pretty well, but I have a hard time keeping well." To the manicurist, she said, "Why don't you wear glasses?" The girl replied, "I don't need glasses. Why should I wear them?" The woman replied, "Because everybody wears them. You'll find there is something wrong with your eyes if you have them examined." When she finally leaves, they all feel limp and wonder if they are really well or only seem to be well. See how one person just kind of monopolizes the energy with their own curses and their spells? This is the casting of spells. People make you doubt yourself. People make you question your reality. People can make you think a different way about yourselves and who you are. But you have to just continue to show up as the true you and know that your essence can't be counterfeit or can't be stolen, because you just continue to show up as that, and your light will be your truth, and your truth will speak for you, and it'll cast out the spells of others. That's what I believe. So back to this woman. Her method leaves a trail of apprehension and gloom behind her. This is a sample of what one hears from nearly every booth in the hair salon. The way most people talk. It's appalling when one knows the power of the word and what they are attracting, for they are nearly all describing illnesses or operations. You combine with what you notice, so do not describe anything destructive, for you begin to combine with it. I'll read that again. You combine with what you notice, that which you give your attention to. You combine with it. So do not describe anything destructive, for you begin to combine with it. If you continue to revisit or intermingle with someone that you know is toxic or like of the lower vibration, even if you think you're in control of like that dynamic, you're like, well, that's why. So to an extent, you can become aware of it, but then it's what you do with that. Once you're aware, you no longer have the excuse to avoid, to continue to take part in something. And so if you continue to go back and intermingle and intertwine with people of that lower vibration, you're enmeshing your essence and your aura, all of this stuff, energetically, you're intertwining and combining with that lower vibrational person. So that's why sometimes I just withdraw. I don't speak. I don't engage, because they want you to combine with them. It's their essence. What's that? Misery loves company. They're lonely right now. The miserable are very lonely in quarantine, but you shouldn't give them company for that reason. You need to create your own narrative. That's what's more important right now. What is really yours? The blessing you bring to yourself through your spoken or silent word, the things you see with your inner eye, only your doubts, fears, and resentments keep your good from you. If you hate or resent a situation, you have fastened it to yourself, for you attract what you fear or dislike. For example, someone has been unjust to you and you are filled with wrath and resentment. You cannot forgive that person. Time rolls on and another person does the same thing. It is because you have a picture of injustice engraved in your subconscious. History will repeat itself until you think you are cursed with misfortune and injustice. There is only one way to neutralize it. See, that's what my mom used to always say. We used to always have this battle with each other, because I would tell her when she was saying something that's going to create the outcome of the situation, like before we would pull up, just simple things, before we pull up to like a store. She doesn't do this anymore. If you're watching, Mom, I'm not cursing your name, okay? I'm saying in the past, you would speak into existence what you don't want based on what happened in the past. When you go in here, oh, I hate going to this gas station because it's always a frenzy. There's no parking. When you pull up, sure enough, there's no parking. It's a frenzy. There's people driving crazy. Or I hate driving down this road. People always, if you had an accident in the same place over time, you're going to start to think that accident, that place is cursed. You have to just kind of be like, yeah, that happened in the past, but the past history will continue to repeat itself until you think you're cursed with misfortune and injustice. But what you have to do is stop telling the narrative, stop thinking the thought before you go into the situation. Every time you deal with a certain person, if you set the tone and saying, this is what I expect from this person, this is how they always treat me, this is how our dynamic is, that's how it was, but you can sever that tie. It's very crucial that you sever that tie with past existence if you want to shift to another reality or another timeline. You cannot expect something new when you're working from your trained or past belief system. So I pull up to a place and I think, I'm gonna get a great parking spot. That's what I think every time I go. That was one of the first things I learned to manifest from The Secret. The easiest thing to manifest is a parking spot so you can test your abilities. If you go in thinking that you're gonna have to circle around for an hour, you're gonna have to circle around for an hour. It's just what it is. Test it. Sorry, the people in the attached area are home. They might be a little loud. I'm trying to wrap this up. There is only one way to neutralize misfortune and injustice that repeats itself. Be absolutely undisturbed by injustice and send goodwill to all concerned. My goodwill is a strong tower round about me. I now transmute all enemies into friends, all inharmony into harmony, all injustice into justice. That's the affirmation. You will be amazed at the working of the law. One student brought harmony out of chaos in her business affairs by that statement. Do not look back and hash over hard times, or you will be drawn back into these conditions. Give thanks for the dawn of a new day. You must be immune to all discouragement and adverse appearances. All that you desire or require is already on your pathway, but you must be wide awake to your good to bring it into manifestation. After making statements of truth, you suddenly have a flash of realization. You suddenly feel yourself in a new environment. You feel old negative conditions falling away. I once said to a woman, the walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and you enter your promised land under grace. I'll say that again. This is the affirmation she offered to one of her students at the truth meetings. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and you enter your promised land under grace. She said she had a sudden flash of a wall crumbling away and that she stepped over it. Soon after that, the change came. She really did enter into her promised land of plenty. I knew a woman whose daughter's desire was a home and a husband. In her early youth, she had a broken engagement. Whenever a possible marriage appeared on the horizon, she became frantic with fear and apprehension, picturing vividly another disappointment, and she had several. Her mother came to me to speak the word for her right marriage, divinely designed, which could not be interfered with. During the interview, the mother said continually, "Poor Nellie, poor Nellie." I said, "Do not call your daughter poor Nellie again. You are helping her to be demagnetized. Call her lucky Nellie, fortunate Nellie, for you must have faith that God now gives to her the desires of her heart." So that's an example right there too. Some people think they're helping others by going and telling the story of what someone else's plight is. You're not helping a person by trying to go to someone else and tell, regurgitate their negative stories. Even, parents, friends, coworkers, bosses, people that want to tell the narrative of lack and disease and misfortune and all those things that are imagined along the lower vibrational plane. You're not helping when you think you're going to someone and say, "Can you help her because she's so misfortunate?" No, you're just perpetuating that because you see the person in that way. You have to shift how you see people if you ever want to free them from their past and liberate them to approach you in a new way. If you don't want to do that, then you're just going to continue to get the same results, but it's your choice and it's your creation. We have to take ownership of our experiences. So the mother and daughter did this. They persisted in making their affirmations. She has now fulfilled her destiny, for she is Mrs. Nellie, and the demon of fear is dissolved forever. There are wonderful statements in the Bible referring to the breaking down of negative thought forms. Quote, "The power of the Spirit is mighty, even unto the pulling down of strongholds." End quote. The human mind is helpless to cope with these negative thoughts. The victory is won by the God within, the superconscious mind. Quote, "Brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and there be any praise, think on these things." End quote. That's from Philippians 4, verse 8. If people obeyed this, general conversation would come to a standstill for a while until people learned to talk about constructive things. And that's the end of that section. Again, this is from Florence Scovel Shinn and her book, The Power of the Spoken Word. I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend you start guarding your thoughts and speak only about constructive things. You can. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.